Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the American Scouser TV EPL panel show with the best EPL fans in the land, bringing you down a path of greatness like Breaking Bad, just to disappoint you with a final scene like the OA, with an interpretive dance that nobody understands. We're here with Jay is back, Alex is back, and as well as me. Fantastic to see Alex. And again, as always, we're just going to talk about Keith Andrews for the entire night, lads. I'm so sorry about that. But good to see you boys tonight. And again, as always, it's a pleasure to host the EPL fantasy show, or the fantasy show, the panel show. It's always a good time. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight, because there's a lot of games to get through. There's the weekend games gone by. There's the midweek games, which aren't even completed. We'll talk a little bit about management effects, because we're seeing a lot of different ones this season. And then we look ahead to the weekend. And of course, as always, the Tonali picks for the end before we get out. So, gentlemen, how are we? Are we happy enough so far with the seasons? I mean, Jay better be.
Yeah, doing all right.
It's looking like we were just talking before we went on air, and what I meant to say was this looks like one of those seasons where nobody wants to step ahead. Like last season, everybody except Liverpool wanted to go ahead of everybody else. But this season, it could be an open race after Christmas, which would be good for entertainment's sake. Maybe not for the nerves and the heart and the cardiologists. A good evening to Sir Z from Thursday. He's in a proper time zone now, so he's actually in Tuesday, which is good. So let's start with the weekend results there. A couple of interesting ones. Brentford, I saw that game, fantastic game there. A very, very enjoyable. We'll talk about that. City, as we'll see later for the midweek games, they're scoring, because why wouldn't they with that amount of money up front, says the Liverpool fan. But they're also conceding a lot. Spurs, don't know what's going on with them. Crystal Palace, maybe the glass in the wheels have fallen off. And Chelsea Arsenal, which that was a very cagey, almost I dare say, a title challenging game from two title challengers. Let's start with Brentford, because we'll go down in that order. Glenn, talk us through that game, because I said on the Discord channel, which everybody should be on, and if you're not, you're a sado and not a cool kid. You want to be a cool kid. But receipts out on the table early on the season. I wasn't sure about Keith Andrews. He didn't seem to know whether he wanted to continue Thomas Frank's ideas or whether to bring his own in. But he slowly but surely brought his own ideas, Glenn. Tell me about that game, because it was a very, very good game.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. Did you watch it, Macca? Or did you just
I did indeed.
Yeah, well, the first half wasn't great, was it? The first half was a little bit flat and cagey, to be perfectly fair. But it burst into life at the end, didn't it? What a thrilling last 15 minutes. It was wonderful. Yeah, we obviously get a penalty once again. We are slight pen merchants, I think, this season. It's fair to say we keep being given them. We don't score them all. We've missed 2 this season, but Igor Thiago scores enough of them over the course of the season to make a real difference for us. So yeah, we get a penalty and finally get the goal that I think we deserved. We played some good football in that second half. And then, they go up the other end and they end up nabbing a penalty out of the blue. Suddenly it's 1-1. And then is it a minute later, Macca, I think? We'd barely kind of caught our breath after the Burnley penalty when Igor Thiago once again bags a vital goal with another really, really tidy finish. He's just been electric. He's the second highest goal scorer this season. Into double figures, sensational. I mean, we've lost over the years where we've lost, going back, Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney, Visser, plenty of others, and Bumo, probably the most important of the lot. And they've all contributed a huge amount of goals to our team. And somehow, by some miracle, which is great data-driven recruitment, we've got another incredible goal scorer who's finally shown us what he can do, as he was injured all of last season, as discussed. And then, just to put some icing on the cake, our record signing, Dango Atara, who by some accounts, we overpaid for, as he wasn't starting every game for Bournemouth. But again, it's all about data. We're signing prospective players, right? We're signing players that are going to be tearing it up in a year or two's time. We're not like Chelsea or whoever else. Well, Chelsea's a bad example because Chelsea buy young players, old players, who they would buy anyone. But, we're not one of those teams who can buy in their prime. Like, for example, Arsenal could buy Norgard from us because he was in like probably the peak of his career. So Dango, we've spent big money on, and he actually moved to the center for that last 5 minutes when Igor came off, and he what a great goal. What a great finish that was after a beautiful defense splitting pass, I think, from Henderson again, if I remember rightly. So, yeah, what can I say, Maka? I mean, our recruitment was sensational again. Dango's been brilliant. Henderson, I think, is probably the most underrated signing of the summer now from any team. I'd say Jacques has probably been the best signing from all 20 teams, but I think Henderson's been the most underrated. He's just a hero for us. And that's not just in defense, right? He can play these passes that most other players can't see in the Premier League. Yeah, what can you say? Burnley, credit to them. They fought hard. They weren't pushovers at all. That feels like the story of Burnley's season. They've been solid and fine, but they just haven't been able to put a string of results together. They just lack Premier League quality across their squad, I think. But they fought hard. Credit to them. Like, it was an even game. But I think we showed enough Premier League quality, which Burnley couldn't do, across the 90 minutes to really deserve that. And what can I say? Your forward scores twice, your other forward scores a goal. Happy days. I mean, I was buzzing after that match. And for it to have such a dramatic ending, Maka, for it to be pretty dead for 85 minutes and for us to get 4 goals, so that's a lot of action in the end.
Well, the thing that struck me about that game was, and about Keith Andrews, was he kind of almost, to a degree, like Arne Slot did last season, which he doesn't seem to be doing this season. He shifts through formations to meet the challenge, which is a great quality to have in a coach. But more importantly, the players seem to know what they're doing when they do those shifts, don't they?
Absolutely. And in terms of personnel, right, he started Matthias Jensen instead of Yarmulke. Jensen's a bit more creative. Maybe we did miss Yarmulke in midfield, but it was good for him to try a slightly more attacking team against Burnley. Substitutions, I mean, Reece Nelson, who obviously got on loan from Arsenal. It's a real shame, actually, that he can't play tomorrow because he can't play against his parent club, but he looked lively. I think Reece Nelson's going to turn out to be a really shrewd signing for us. We're going to lose Dango to AFCON in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think it is, just under that. So to have Reece Nelson, a player of Premier League pedigree, although he doesn't always get to show it, in the sidelines waiting, is great. And honestly, Maka, we just have a depth to our squad, despite losing Norgard, Flecken, Visser, Bumo, like the core of our squad and our manager. We just seem to have across the squad more depth. Like Rico Henry, before his injuries, he's being talked about as England's next left back. Keane Lewis Potter, with the run of games he had last season, he was potentially in Tuchel's plans, right? Both of them are on the bench. So we've had genuinely 2 prospective England prospects, players sitting on the bench for us, right? We've got players like Ethan Pinnock who have been mainstays. Yanout has been a mainstay in the Premier League. These guys can't get a game. Like, that to me shows that the players in our first 11 are performing, which they are. I mean, you can, Maka, sort of celebrate Kelleher and Collins all day long. Sensational. And then our recruitment, even from big teams like you guys, like Van den Berg, Kelleher, they've been great. And honestly, Coyote, our right back, I would argue has been arguably the best right back in the Premier League this season. Maybe Timber, if he's whichever side he is, but as a fullback, Timber then Coyote, I'd say would be 2 of the best. So, we're enjoying life. There's still more to get from this team. I think Damsgaard could contribute more goals and assists. I think Schade had a poor game, and I think he's better than he showed for us. But
he was a shadow of his former self.
He was perfect. That was so bad that Alex left.
That was so bad Alex had to leave.
Just walked out. But yeah, we're buzzing back. I mean, yeah, as you saw, there's a real good team spirit. We had skepticism. You did. Fan base did. We had a rocky run of results. That first half against Forest was as poor as his first game was as poor a performance and team selection as I've ever seen in the Premier League from us. But hey, again, recruitment has been sensational. And he is a man who can inspire the players, who can coach the players. And as you said, Maka has a tactical nous to adapt his team. He's not rigid. We've talked about this for all year with Ange, and Amorim, these managers who are just so dogmatic. And it doesn't seem like Andrews is like that, because I felt like his dogma was 5 at the back. That was what he seemed to want to do when he came in. And I think he figured out, hey, the squad I've got why are we playing 5 at the back? Like, we've got better quality up front. So yeah, I'm buzzing. Arsenal's we'll get onto it later. Arsenal's the hardest ask in Europe right now. They're the best team in Europe, many would argue. So that's a bit of, that's just a bit of a see how it goes. But I mean, Matt, yeah, we're in a bit of form. Let's go to the Emirates with a bit of positivity. Like, pressure's on Arsenal, right? City got the win. Let's go put them under pressure.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Let's go back to the games there. Fulham against Spurs, Alex. We'll get you in there early on because we haven't seen you in so long. But, Thomas Frank having his problems there at Spurs. We get to the managers talk later on. We'll talk about what I think the issue is, because I watched that Spurs Newcastle game there today. But Fulham having a fantastic showing again today. We'll talk about that game specifically. But how happy or unhappy are you with the season so far? Because you're still capable of pulling those results out. It's maybe just that consistency, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a weird year. I think Fulham have come on the backs of a few really good finishes since coming back up under Marco. And this year, with the lack of signings in the summer window, and the club really feeling like, man, we're just going to stay put here, and the clear unhappiness from Marco Silva with ownership and leadership. So it was a weird kind of situation going on. And then again, a tough run to start the year. And it's one of those things in the Premier League, we all have to play the same 38. So you get the tough ones in a row, or you get them spread out. And Fulham just happened at the beginning of the year to have a pretty tough run of fixtures to start. And so I think a lot of Fulham fans were anxious about the relative lack of points. But with an eye to, okay, we got some guys in late, and this is a long season. We'll be all right. And this past week, after the international break, week and a half, whatever, has affirmed that, of getting a good result against Sunderland, coming out and getting a good result against, and albeit what are Spurs, but a good result there for Fulham, especially on the road. And then even today, a good result today. So there's a lot more confidence now than if you had asked us after we got beat by Everton for the international break. So the mood is a lot better today, but between 5th and 15th is a 5-point difference, right? So the mid-table this year is exceptionally tight as of right now. And like you're saying, Glenn, like, you're excited about Brentford and you're right there. I think Brentford, 2 points ahead of Fulham, right? It's all, and you can say Brentford, you're like, oh, I've had an excellent season. Holy smokes. And then you look in the rearview and go, damn, I thought Fulham were not doing very well. And they're 2 points back, right? So it's setting up to be, thankfully, a really exciting mid-table battle here to see, okay, there's 2 or 3 European spots. Which one of these 10 teams is going to fill it is, and Fulham are right in there. Again, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been a lot more negative, less positive things to say. But
in terms of, we saw today again City. What was his name? Chuck. I can't say his name properly. Chukwueze.
I call him Chuck. We love Chuck.
But there's definitely talent on that team, isn't there? But it's maybe just getting the defensive solidity a little bit better, wouldn't it?
And since the international break, and even leading into it, it had gotten a lot better. I think they said before today, right? Fulham had only given up 3 or 4 Premier League goals at home, and obviously City came in, they wrecked that today. But it had been trending better, right? And so that seemed to be going well. And the problem is, Fulham have one established Premier League striker on the roster, and that's a 35-year-old Raul Jimenez, who is excellent, and we love him, but that's it. And the guy behind him is an 18-year-old from Bayern, who again has an excellent pedigree, but he's played a grand total of now, after today, 48 Premier League minutes or something crazy. So if that, so there's a lack of depth at some key positions there, and the hope is in the January window. I think their word is that there were some frank conversations between Marco Silva and the Cons. The Cons flew over to London for the international break, and I think there were some conversations had of, I'm not going to sign an extension until you pony up. So in that January window, we'll see what they do, because there are some holes still in this team. Mm-hmm. I think the relegation battle, I don't think Fulham are going to get dragged into that. But, that's not where you want to be as a club who finished, 10th, 13th, and 11th, or whatever the last 3 years are. You don't want to be looking in the rearview. You want to be looking ahead. And they should be able to do that. I mean, they're right there. The talent is there. Like you said, Chukwueze is betting in. The talent is there. But
so, what you're saying is they have to show a can-do attitude.
A little bit of a can-do.
We're getting all of it in today. We're getting all the bad jokes in today. Let's look at this one here, because this was interesting. I watched this game. So it's very rare I get to watch weekend games, but I did get to watch Chelsea Arsenal, Jamie. Now, there were parts of that game, sections, like solid sections of that game, where you couldn't tell who the league leaders were. Like all the talk we've had over the time period that we've talked on this show about Maresca, about the huge squad. But I don't know when he said it, but I read a thing there. He was talking about it's not the old game now. It's a squad game, and that rotation is important. He's kind of seeing the benefits now of that whole philosophy. And Maresca's kind of ideas are coming to fruition now, aren't they? He's really got a squad of players, as large as it may be, that are ready to go when they're called to action, aren't they? He's getting that plan together right now, and it could be a league challenging year for Chelsea, couldn't it?
Yeah, we were. We were confident coming off a really strong thrashing of Barcelona, right? Which was a surprise. Arsenal were clearly more organized at the beginning than Chelsea, but our tactical rotations, when Caicedo was dropping back, Gusto was moving up, James was moving around, that seemed to confuse Arsenal, and it was a bit of a cagey first 30 minutes. But I was optimistic, kind of heading in there, thinking that we would potentially open them up with 11 men. Caicedo sent off. It was I'm not, no complaints there. There was no malice, but it was late, and kind of the angle of it. Like, I didn't think he was out of control, but you've certainly seen them be straight reds. So that wasn't ideal, and especially when that's the player that gets sent off. If it was like ASTV forward, you'd think you were going to be better able to recover. But I was very impressed with Maresca's ability to have learned from the mistakes he made at Man United, where he took off the players that you would want to keep on the pitch. I was surprised we didn't see Santos, but he trusted the guys on the pitch, and one of those is Reece James. And my word, wasn't he fantastic? At the build up to the game, it was who's better, Rice or Caicedo? And Caicedo didn't last long, but Reece James played Declan Rice off the pitch. He was supported by Enzo Fernandez, who was also very good, but James was by far and away the best player on the pitch. No one else touched him. And it felt like he was outplaying Arsenal's midfield on his own, which is incredibly impressive for a right back. But it was also really encouraging to see other good performances. The wingers were great. Garnacho, when he came on, surprise, was really good. Neto was up and down the whole time. We really needed that energy. Liam Delap looked like a championship player when he came on. It took him about 15 minutes to realize where he was. He kept giving the ball away, and I would have been just as good as he was, to be quite frank. But Cucurella and Fernandez both treating it like a London derby. You saw that clip going around social media of them, Enzo kicking Madueke and then celebrating in his face, both of them. Like there was a bit of an edge to Chelsea, the dark arts, as you go down to 10 men, just like Arsenal did against City. But yeah, really, really encouraging. And it was a shame to sacrifice Esteval after the momentum that he had. I didn't quite buy it. I was going to buy another shirt with Esteval on the back, or Steve-O. They did, Chelsea Megastore and World Soccer Shop did not have my size, so I thank my wife is probably very appreciative of that. So sad to see him go, but one thing that's really encouraging is that we are likely going to get a fully fit Cole Palmer to land back on this team, or place in this team. We probably have to shuffle things around, but if you'd asked me, or if you told me Cole Palmer's going to have played 4 out of the 12 or 13 games he played this season, and you're going to be in 3rd position, like that's pretty good. Like you say, like the squad has stepped up in his absence. I mean, my little headline on here used to be Cole Palmer FC, and we proved that we're not. Like, there are other players stepped up: Reece James, Pedro Neto, Caicedo, and even without Caicedo as well, like I think we deserve to beat Arsenal, and it's a little disappointing that we didn't. I think with 11 men we likely would have. You'll never know, but I think when you go down to 10 against Arsenal, who I actually can't believe they're only 5 points clear of City. It seems like they've been phenomenal. Everyone else has been shit, and it's still pretty tight at the top. But to still be within touch and not lose a game where you're playing more than half the match with 10 men, I'd say very impressive. Also, Robert Sanchez was fantastic. He made probably 2 or 3 really good saves and was incredibly brave at the end against Gyökeres. I didn't think that was a red card for Gyökeres. Some Chelsea fans were saying it was. I thought he was entitled to go for it. It was a bit aggressive and clumsy. But Sanchez, very well done keeping that out.
With 11 men looking at that game, I would almost say when Liverpool played Arsenal early in the season, it was just a dogged performance. But Chelsea I haven't seen a huge amount of Arsenal's games, but of all the games I've watched, Chelsea looked like the team that had them rattled the most in a game with 11v11. But I want to talk about Reece James because it's a thing. I'd like to say that I came to my own conclusion and I'm some sort of soccer genius, but it was basically something I was told years and years and years ago on a coaching course, is that back then, we were all Anglos. We all taught in 3-line formations, 4-3-3, 4-4-2. And then 4-2-3-1 came out, and that now there's suddenly 4 bands. And one of the things was like the fullbacks and the defensive mids should be on the same band as if you're thinking as a coach. So the idea that Reece James is doing a fantastic job as a holding mid, it's really not surprising to let's say people who think deeply about the game. But it's a testament to him, isn't it? And to Maresca as a coach, that he's not having even any kind of fitting in time. He's literally just, okay, I'm doing this now. I suppose I'm Philip Lamb for the next rest of the season.
He was also the captain, wasn't he? He was getting in the ref's ear. He was organising the team, and he's not that vocal. He's not a Roy Keane like Patrick Vieira, wear my heart on my sleeve. Steven Gerrard, but he was influential throughout the game in all areas of the pitch, talking to the ref, like inspiring the fans. I think he was honestly fantastic, and I mean it certainly helped that I think Arsenal were on the ropes a little bit. You saw Arteta getting very protective. He's taken off Calafiori, who's one of their better players in the first half because he was on a yellow, and then Lewis Skelly got booked like 6 seconds into the second half or whatever it was. That plan went foul, but they had 6 bookings, Arsenal, and we were probably the more aggressive team. And there was some Chelsea play acting there, but I think we had them on the ropes. Like they did have both their centre backs out. They are both key on offensive and defensive free kicks and corners. But you also saw Chelsea be pretty creative when it came to Arsenal's free kicks. Like even with 10 men, we had 3 or 4 men on the halfway line, and when they had a corner, João Pedro just not even watching the ball and just watching the men. Like we were trying all sorts of things. I think we've now got a set piece coach, and apparently that is working. But we've been relatively good from set pieces, and Robert Sanchez was dominant again, trying to claim him. So I still think Arsenal are a better side than Chelsea. But and they showed their squad depth, but they weren't leagues above us, considering like we had our best player not on the pitch and our second best player playing 38 minutes. I'm encouraged.
It's definitely a good performance. And then I was going to say for Reece James, like when he first started at Chelsea, there was kind of doubts about his ability, but he's shown it now. Like the kind of experience and maturity is literally, you can see what that means as a definition with how he plays. Let's look at the rest of the game. And there's Sunderland are still doing well. 3-2 against Bournemouth. Bournemouth seem to have the wheels falling off a little bit. And then United win. Ruben Amorim has to get some wins at some point. But let's look at the games for the midweek. I didn't even know there were midweek games. I was looking for the Champions League schedule, and it wasn't there. But here's what we've got for today so far. Bournemouth losing to Everton again. Bournemouth, kind of the wheels coming off a little bit. But Everton, as I think I've said here before, I've definitely said on the Thursday show, as much as Liverpool fans may mock David Moyes for Everton, obviously history and Man United history, he's actually a very good coach. He's never spectacular. But this game here, Jamie, that's a game you want to show prospective fans of soccer, go, look, this is how good it gets. When neither team knows how to defend.
You guys were 4-1 down?
4-1 down, something like that, wasn't it?
5.
5-1
yeah.
down. Yeah, it showed real mettle to come back. But Man City's second game in a row where they're just shipping goals.
Yeah.
I thought Donnarumma was there. They've got Donnarumma. They're going to be great. But yeah, I mean,
still the same deal. But Jamie, tell me about that, because it's a testament to Marco Silva that he's able to keep his team's head in the game, isn't it?
I think Fulham are a well-coached side. Sorry, a question might have been going to Alex, but yeah, Fulham are a really good side, and you may not have got anything from the game, but that must give you encouragement heading into kind of what is going to be the business end of the season, with showing that much mettle to come back against an intimidating City team. Or is it suggestion that I guess aura that City have had for so long is kind of fading away?
I think both and, right? Like, I think I would be lying if I wasn't sitting watching after the fourth one went in, after the fifth one went in, I'm sitting there going like, what am I going to say on the show tonight? Like, how on earth? Because I think, Fulham haven't won. This is 17, or I think it's 18 or 19 in a row now that Fulham have lost to City. So this is one that every year you kind of look at and you're like, all right, we're not going to get anything from this one. So to go down 4-1 to get the consolation at the end of the first half from Emile Smith-Rowe, I thought that was like a good for ESR to get one back and let's just ride this out. So to see them score the fourth and the fifth was like, God, this is going to get embarrassing. But we've talked about it before on the show last season and earlier this season, is that Marco Silva, this is what he does. They put the pedal to the metal and they go, and there must have been something they saw that said, if we keep attacking, we can get something out of this goal or out of this game. So let's attack and defend a little bit better. Now, they did one of those two things and they attacked. They didn't defend any better. But yeah, really encouraging to see Chukwueze come in and finally kind of bed in a little bit. He hasn't, after the World Cup debacle for Nigeria, and he's playing a bunch of games, and then to come back in and to see him play well and like slot in a little bit better is super encouraging. I think this puts to rest the kind of midfield pairing of Sasha Lukic and Sander Berger. It just doesn't work. And I know City is a hard one to take that lesson from, because I'm not sure Fulham could have really done anything today that would have changed the end outcome of this. But I think there's some good lessons to take. And again, it's all about perspective, right? If Fulham don't pick up 3 points against Sunderland and don't take 3 points on Saturday, we're having a very different discussion right now. If Fulham lose those two or pick up 1 point, all of a sudden, instead of it's 6 from 9, it's 1 from 9, and like, oh boy, the wheel's coming off. So to see the fight, I think I'd rather see this than your standard Fulham City 3-1. That's kind of how it's gone for the last 20 years. So to see this was exciting. Not many teams go down 5-1 and still kind of throw it at the wall. And it worked to some extent today. Exciting. What a mess. And they almost scored. They almost scored at the end. I don't know if you guys saw that. They were literally a goal line clearance away. And to be fair, Haaland hit the post twice. So like this game could have been 100-99. So, take it for what it's worth. But they almost scored at the end, at the death. 18-year-old Josh King. So, what a wild one. That was a wild one.
This was the basketball game for all soccer fans. We don't have Sully and we don't have Jake to talk about this one. So Glenn, it's up to you to talk about this a little bit, because what I want to ask, and it'll lead us into the next section before we look at the midweek games for tomorrow and the weekend games. Watching this Newcastle Spurs second half, because I watched the obviously was transfixed by the Fulham City game. Thomas Frank, he started off relatively well with Spurs. He did what Ange Postecoglou couldn't do, which was solidify the defense a little. But he also doesn't seem to be able to do what Ange Postecoglou could do and get the team attacking properly. But watching the second half, it seems to me that this Spurs team, just like we talked about Chelsea, like the season before and the season before, as I'm sure Jamie will hope, I think maybe agree with, is they're a team that needs a centre forward. They're a team that needs somebody that's an outlet for all the attack and play, because they're getting the ball in the penalty area or around the penalty area, but there's nobody there. Bar Richarlison to be the focal point, and you don't want to bet your house on Richarlison being the focal point, because more than likely he's going to be the one that gets the red card in the game. What do you think is number one? Do you think Thomas Frank has gone wrong at Spurs, or do you think Spurs have gone wrong and Thomas Frank needs the tools to actually do what he wants to do, because you did made a great point about Brentford's recruitment. It's almost Brighton like now. Brentford seems like it's going to be the next club that everybody's going to analyze on how to do database recruitment. I don't think Spurs do that so much. Do you think Thomas Frank really needs a little bit of help on that, or was he one of those managers who's just always suited to that kind of smaller club that doesn't have a huge amount of ambition, so everything he does looks great?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, yeah, I watched instead of the Alex's basketball match, I suffered through the first half of Everton Bournemouth, and you can imagine my face full of joy as I was checking the score. It was on Peacock, right? I have Peacock, I don't have USA. Yeah. And they picked the right game, right? It was the main game. So anyway, I was really keen to hop over as soon as, because the way the games were staggered, as soon as the first half of Everton finished, this one kicked off. So Macca, I did watch this full game, and the first half, I mean, wasn't great. Again, I suffered through, I think, 90 minutes of no goals, while there were about 9 in Craven Cottage. So that was making me feel a little bit miserable, actually. But it was fair to say that this exploded into life. I mean, again, it was a bit reminiscent of the Brentford-Burnley game. All the action was the final third. What can you say, really? I mean, Newcastle were probably going away from that game wondering how they lost it. You compare the starting 11s, the teams, how many of those Spurs players would get into the starting 11 for Newcastle. I'm looking at the teams. I'm not sure. I mean, they rested Bruno Guimaraes, who came on with a beautiful goal. And if you haven't seen that, that was unbelievable for him to pick that pocket at the far post with the layoff as well. That was great. Anthony Gordon bags a good penalty. And then Christian Romero comes out of nowhere. You're saying they need a striker, right, Mac? You're like, if they have a goal scorer.
Just well, this bloke, there, yeah.
Banging in headers, banging in overhead kicks. That was one of the funniest goals I've seen this season. If you guys haven't seen it.
The slowest bicycle kick.
He shinned it for starters. It's the slowest. No one's around him. Yeah. He has all the time in the world to jump backwards. He doesn't connect properly with it. And literally, how many Newcastle players are between him and the goal?
The whole team.
7?
The whole team.
Everyone. And they all just kind of watch it, including Ramsdale.
Yeah.
And I'm a keeper. These things happen. It gets the awkward bounce. But
I think what probably happened was that you were all going, Did Romero just do a bicycle?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a goal.
He froze. They were all what exactly? There was this lag because they're all appreciating just the ambition.
He took a leaf out of Marino's book and thought, why not me? The club needs a goal scorer.
Thomas Frank has a sense of humor. He said it's the best. It's the perfect bicycle kick. It's the perfect one. It's the best one I've seen. He said that. So.
Well, it might be a one that helps save his job. So for him, it may well come up. Mackie, you watched a bit of it as well. For me, watching this Spurs team, I mean, the recruitment's been diabolical there. Half the players they spent huge money for starting on the bench. Xavi Simons, huge bust. Matthias Tell, massive bust. Odebert, massive bust. You look at their starting 11, Brennan Johnson, he cannot get a tune out of him. He can't seem to do for Spurs what he can do for Wales. Kudos. There's a player there, and there's quite a Thomas Frank player there because he's a direct winger, but his attitude is very hit and miss. I mean, one of the biggest red flags for me with Frank's tenure so far is just that, the attitude of some of the players, not Kudos, but the two that stormed off down the tunnel without clapping the fans 2 weeks ago, right? Jed Spence was one of them. And if you remember, Jamie, Tuchel actually got involved and said to him, his England manager said, hey, that's bang out of line. That is humiliating. And in fact, Thomas Frank, that's somewhat humiliating because he's lost control of his players to such an extent that their national manager has to give them a talking to. That's shameful. So the players, I'm not saying he's lost the dressing room at all. I'm just saying there's attitude problems with some of the players. The thing I'm getting as an outsider, and I did spend 10 minutes on the Spurs when the first Newcastle goal went in. I went on the Spurs fans forum as one of my favorite, hobbies, random hobbies, right? Guilty pleasures is the phrase I'm searching for here. Just going on a fans forum when they're really struggling, right? It is a lot of fun to see these meltdowns.
You monster.
These guys, my marriage fell apart, but that's nothing compared to this 90 minutes. It's fun. Anyway. Yeah. You do get the sense that there is a huge gulf in terms of kind of respect and harmony between the players, Thomas Frank, and then somewhere over here are the fans. Like the general consensus, not just from today, but just from the fans I speak to, that, you know, the general consensus is they're just not sold on Thomas Frank at all. And, you know, some of his comments about the fans, which I agree with, you know, when they were booing Vicario after his mistake, that's insane to boo your own goalkeeper. Like, that's deranged behavior. With that said, it's probably not very smart for a manager who simply has no credit in the bank, despite a strong start to the season, to really kind of amp up that animosity. Even if you're defending the players, I think there's tact there and there's self-preservation. And I think for Thomas Frank, he's just getting pissed off because obviously Levi, as the sporting director, well, that whole structure over time with Levi when he was there, you know, was impossible to work under. You know, Maka, you've seen a succession of remarkable story celebrated managers just be cycled through Spurs, and the one that does get them the silverware is tossed to the sidelines, and that's still been divisive, right? I see a case for it. I see a case against it. I don't know how you can finish 17th and stay at a club personally, but I also understand that there was a lot of issues. You just look at this cauldron of discontent, but I think fundamentally their playing style under Frank is dour. It's not good. They're not playing good football. They look toothless in attack. I don't think any less or more of him as a manager for how things go at Spurs. It's just a completely different environment. But there's toxicity within the club from the management, from some of the players, from a fan base that's hostile to their own players and manager. Honestly, Maka, yeah, they got the late equalizer. Yeah, it was kind of comically iconic goal. But, like, you know, if we go over there this weekend and get a result, I do get the sense that the clock is ticking on Thomas Frank at Spurs already, because I do think the fan base have made up their mind already. And it would probably take a run of 3-4 wins in a row, statement wins, to win them back. And my final point, with this group of players, I do not see that materializing. I think it's a shoddy squad. I think it's a poorly bought squad. I think it's a poorly managed squad right now. And I think Spurs are a mess. And I look at that 11 and I'm like, who would I take for Brentford right now? Romero today, notwithstanding, yes. Porro, maybe, although he got burnt by Gordon. I mean, he was left in last week when he got skinned by Gordon for the goal. I wouldn't take more than 2 or 3 of these starting players at Brentford. And for me, that tells you all you need to know about this squad. It's a mid-table squad with Champions League ambitions, and that does not work.
Yeah. That was what Glenn, I was going to say. That is what is. I would love to be in the room and see what is the ambition or what are the goals that leadership and management have given to Frank, and so this is what we need to achieve. What does that look like in terms of what the fans expect? Because fans expect Champions League. I mean, I think a lot of Spurs fans would know internally, right, if you really asked them, that's not realistic. But they're like, this is Spurs. Like, look at the budget, look at the playing, look at everything. Like, we should be a Champions League club. But this is a team that finished 17th last year, right, and kind of like backed themselves into the Europa League title. So I don't know what the real expectation should be for Thomas Frank. Is it 10th? That would get him fired. If they finish below 8th, 9th, 10th out of Europe, he's gone. If he's not gone before, to your point, Glenn. It's like the mismatch of expectations versus like what is actually on the squad, what's actually before them seems to be so wide. What manager can fix that? I don't know.
I mean, it's a weird thing because they've had Pochettino, they've had Mourinho, famously Mourinho on camera trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the psychology. It just seems like a basket case of a club regardless, doesn't it?
Would Liverpool take him?
Thomas Frank?
Yeah.
I would have taken Thomas Frank as an option when Klopp said he was going. Like, he's a good coach.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you plank a 2-time winning Champions League manager, several Premier League titles, Portuguese titles, Serie A in there, and he can't get a tune out. Like, there's something fundamentally rotten about Spurs, it seems sometimes, isn't it?
Who do you think
that's not always Levy? You know, it's not always him.
Do you think he's the most likely to get fired at the moment of all the managers in the league, or who would you list above him?
Scott Parker's probably going to be struggling.
Scott Parker, possibly, yeah.
It's a good
classic.
I think just because, like, you know, for Scott Parker, it's just kind of, it wouldn't be like, well, what the hell are you doing, mate? You're not doing. It'd be more like, we've tried. We need to do something else. You can't do what we did last year in the chat. That kind of like, we got to rescue ourselves now. But yeah, I don't doubt that Frank is under an enormous amount of pressure. But it just seems to me, Spurs overall, there's just something like like a Wormwood or something like that in the that needs a proper, maybe a new ownership, even the way Liverpool kind of didn't really get gone till FSG took over. Got rid of the kind of cancer of the Gillette and Hicks period.
They kind of do have a new ownership, don't they? Like Joe Lewis has stepped back, and the young,
It's a rebrand. It's a savvy
rebrand. But it feels like when what's the Colts? What's her name? The new Colts owner who stands on the sidelines with a clipboard because she's Jim Irsay's daughter.
Yeah, her name. Yeah.
And I'm trying to get super involved and not really helping. Maybe getting lucky along the way.
Well, it's like the bus family with the Lakers too, right? Like all the drama there and the bus. Yeah.
But this is it's a good segue into the next thing, because what seems to be, to me, looking, because I always look at coaches more than players, because that's always what my obsession was the managers rather than the players. The players are players. But do you think, gentlemen, that it's more important these days now, especially with larger squads, especially with more games, and especially with rotation being an incredible important factor in running a season? And now that data is almost probably exclusively used rather than, scouts traveling up and down the M1 looking for hidden talents, etc., with their flask of Bovril and their Werther's Originals in their passenger seat, that coaches and managers coming into teams now have to stop being Ruben Amorim, stop being Arne Slot this season and saying, well, here's the system that I'm used to, so I'm going to have to shoehorn these players in here. Do you think the next kind of philosophical thought for coaches is, well, what do I have? If I have 7 forwards and 4 defenders, I can't be playing 5 at the back with 1 up front. Do you think there's going to be a sea change where systems take a backseat to what's actually in the squad, and managers like Keith Andrews, as we talked about earlier, look at their squad and say, well, what do I have? I'll form a system around that. What do you think?
It feels like, if you don't mind me taking a stab, it feels like we went way deep on system football for the past like half decade. Pep, tiki-taka, and then kind of a lot of that has kind of permeated.
I'd say almost the full decade.
Teams that have no business playing out from the back. It's like players who have like NFL teams with a shit quarterback going for it on 4th and 1. You're like, you're not going to get that. You've not got a first down all day.
As well. Steph Curry in the NBA, like everyone just
there's examples in every sport, and this is the example in football. I think we are going to see regression, or like a regression to the mean a little bit. You've seen the long throws come back in.
Yeah.
I think it's now that people are trying things, there's data on those, and set pieces are like so important now. Long throws is an example of a set piece. It's almost better for some teams because the ball has less pace on it. It's arguably easier to throw it into the box than it is to place a corner. But yeah, I think we're going to see more of that. With regards to the team, I think it's a little bit of both, because you've got managers that maybe only know systems, right? And that's their strength. They're going to lean into the strength. They're going to work with the teams, work with what they've got a little bit, but that we've seen that not work for players. And Vincent Kompany got the Bayern Munich job by playing his system and just kind of not getting any points at all. But I guess where I'm trying to go with this is I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think that there is a responsibility on coaches to actually coach the players, though. Like rarely you see like Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho would always complain about not having the players, but you have good players. It's your job to train them to fit a system. If you have a really rigid system, like train them to fit, or recruit players that are somewhat diverse and cannot only play in one way. And I think I'm going to give a Chelsea example, but I think there's been growth with Maresca. Last season, he was very guilty of playing one way, perhaps two. And this season, he's been forced to do it, actually, because we've been out without Cole Palmer. It was kind of get Cole the ball and hope something happens. This season, we've been far better at utilizing the entire squad. And to an extent, have really benefited from losing Cole Palmer, because it's given players like Esteban an opportunity. And we've had to come up with tactical ways to find an advantage. And I think kind of when you're forced, that's when innovation arrives. And I think that's going to be like it's leaning into tactical expertise or knowledge that Maresca has, and layering into kind of the players that he has to coming up with a game plan. Like, that's not necessarily a system, but it's not miles away from that. I think there's going to be a little more practicality in teams being a little more pragmatic as they have to rotate. They can't rely on the one player, the two players as they rotate through because I mean, games are just coming thick and fast, right? They're going to continue having more games. World Cup, Champions League. There's so many games. We forgot there were midweek games.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I was just quickly. I think there's what we'll see. Hopefully, to your point, Jay, is like a moving back or moving to a sense of it is good and a right thing, a good thing for a coach manager to have a guiding philosophy and a guiding ethos. So for Marco Silva, that is attacking beautiful, flowing football. That's the goal, right? And so if you're looking with that goal in mind, if you have João Palhinha in your squad, that works one way. But without João Palhinha, Marco has to adjust a bit, and that's where you get the combination of Lukic and Berga together, right? So when we have João Palhinha in the squad, you can say, you handle it. And when he goes off to Bayern and then to Spurs, he has to adjust that a little bit. And it would be silly to bring in a player who isn't as good as João and expect that one player to be, well, I'm normally used to having one player in this role, so make it work, kid. And so we'll hopefully see a little bit of a change back to that and this, again, is someone who lived through this dark Scott Parker Premier League season where it was this sense of every week you go out and it's the same lineup in the same set. Everything was the same. And it was like this is my system. This is what I do. I'm like, well, yeah, but we scored 9 goals at home. This isn't working. So let's fix this. And so, yeah, I think that's the key difference is you can have a system that's fine, but your philosophy needs to be more set and your system changes as you need to adjust. But you're right. With guys like Scott Parker, you don't see that. He's doing it right now, Burnley too. Same thing.
Yeah, just let me for Josh ACM7. If you're watching on YouTube, rewind about 10 minutes. Glenn already answered that, and he did a very good answer as well. That's the beauty of being on YouTube. Now, Glenn, in terms of, it seems to me as a Liverpool fan, and we've been debating this as Liverpool fans on the Discord channel, I'm sure all over social media, that Arne Slot wants to play a certain way. He wants to play a certain formation, but it's not that he doesn't have the players. He has too many players in certain sections of the field, and it's unbalancing the team. Yep. And we saw against West Ham there the other day, dropped Salah completely, put players in positions to play closer to what you wanted to do, and it worked out really well. It wasn't the perfect game, a little bit scrappy at times, but nevertheless, it played a system that worked towards the players that he had, and including doing little things like protecting the space around Konate, so he didn't have as many decisions to make because he makes very bad ones at times. But are we seeing? I would consider the idea of having an overall philosophy and bringing it into a team as a coach, and then saying, what do I have? And I'll change things around my philosophy, certainly formation-wise, because formation is just the arrangement of players. It's not really, you can't say what way a team is playing just by saying 4-4-2. They could be pressing, they could be dropping, they could be using the wingers. They could be, the formation is just the arrangement. But some managers are wedded to that formation, whatever it happens to be. For example, Arne Slot on the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 kind of hybrid thing. Do you think, managers who go into smaller clubs, let's say, without being condescending, they cannot say, well, I'll just buy Isak, I'll just buy Ekitike, I'll just buy Kirkes. You can't do that. So you've got to kind of come in and go, well, okay, I don't have 12 centre forwards, I've got 2. So I'm going to probably have to play one up front because in case one gets injured, I'm stuck. Do you think that kind of mentality, maximizing set pieces, the big managers, the Arteta's, Maresca even to an extent, Mourinho's even, they're kind of seeing what the small club manager has to deal with and go, well, actually, maybe there's merit in that. Maybe I don't have to be Brazil from 1970 to get some wins. Do you think there's maybe a value in coming from like a smaller club and not having the resources that kind of demands a certain flexibility of thinking that the top managers are now only figuring out this season for some reason?
Definitely. I mean, limitation really generates innovation, right, Macca? Like we saw that so often with Thomas Frank at Brentford. We had not only did we have a small squad, under Thomas Frank, we were beset by injury after injury. We had the worst injury record, I think, for 2 seasons in a row. And sure, we'll get bigger clubs complaining about injuries. Like, I get it, but we did, in terms of minutes out, for at least one of the previous seasons, we had the top in the Premier League. We can't afford that as a club with basically, we're a club with one striker. We've had one striker at the club for basically the entire time in the Premier League. One striker, no backup striker. Left back situation was a nightmare. So what do? And I feel really bad for him because he was so good last season. Keane Lewis Potter, who we bought as an attacking winger, brought him back to left back, molded him into one of the most consistent left backs in the league last season. Like, he was excellent. And it is just so brutal that we've gone out and got Coyote or whoever else, and there's no room for him. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to innovate. And we talked about this tactically the week before last, right? You know, you just have to make the most and stretch your resources. And with Arne Slot, you know, recruitment, I mean, you guys needed a centre-back. You guys really, really needed Gahey. You misprioritized. You totally misprioritized. And you're paying the price for that now. And not only that, you know, as you've talked about to death across, obviously, channels on here, like, you spent a hell of a lot of money. And just spending that money on the players does not equal in the Premier League of all leagues. It doesn't equal, it's not fantasy football or FIFA, where in theory, like Ultimate Team, if you get the best pack of players, you're probably going to do better. Like, it's just not the way the dynamics work, right? It's all about this chemistry. And yeah, it's fascinating that the game that Salah sits out, he's been so off form this season, but it was a real statement from Slot to have the confidence to do that. And fair play, it sounds like, for Salah for taking that on the chin, because, like, you know what, he's going to have AFCON to focus on anyway. But, like, that is a huge statement, right? The best Premier League player in the season by a mile, I mean, alongside Haaland, but by a mile last season, really. You know, that was just a testament to how little it's worked. And surprise, surprise, Isak gets his long-awaited goal. Vert's probably put in his best shift we've seen in the Liverpool shirt.
He was fantastic.
He was super good.
It was against West Ham, who are shit, but
that's true. That's true. That's true.
You got to start somewhere, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean,
to Glenn's point, though, it will be interesting, right? Salah's going away. It will give you an opportunity, or like to force that lineup, right? Like,
yeah,
what you're just saying.
Yeah, the 2 wingers, right? Gakpo gets his goal and an assist, right? Gakpo had a hell of a game. Like, there's going to be room for players like Gakpo and Wirtz if they don't have to worry about this rotation risk or the fact they're always going to be a backup to Salah. Like, that definitely is going to give them an opportunity. And yeah, as you know, Jimbo says in the chat, 3 points are 3 points, fine. 2-0 win, happy days. Whoever you're playing, right? Because you know. What doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the win comes. And just one more thing on the chat before, like, in terms of Jamie mentioned pragmatism. I do think it's interesting, like, how much we're going to revert back to the kind of typical old school Premier League pragmatic manager in the next year, right? We've got a lot of systems managers. We've got a lot of experimental managers, which I like in the Premier League. I do miss Ange. I think he's entertaining. I think he's a character. I think the league is poorer for his absence at Spurs. But what I would say is it's going to be
not in Brentford, no, at Spurs.
yes, exactly. But you know, I do think it's interesting when you look at a team like Nottingham Forest, gone to Dyche. Look at a team like Everton, got Moyes back. I mean, hey, I suffered through 45 minutes of Everton. I did see Jackie Grealish's goal, and I mean, the vibe in the away end at Everton was pumping. Like, the vibes on that team were outstanding. And, like, again, they're missing a key player. They're missing a forward. I mean, Beto and Barry are hopeless Premier League footballers. Hopeless. But Moyes and Dyche are players who know the value of pragmatism. They know the league. They know this league inside out, right? They know how to play dirty. They know the tricks of the trade, right? They just know how the Premier League functions in a very old-fashioned way. And I'd just be curious, because both of them are doing what it's hard to say with Dyche, but Moyes is crushing it at Everton again. Like, they look a decent team. Like, I'm really curious to see if we're going to see a swing towards experienced managers, right? If and when, maybe, for example, Scott Parker departs Burnley, if that does happen, which direction are they going to go? Is it going to be one of these older names we're familiar with? Probably, right? Be very curious if Thomas Frank does depart Tottenham, what direction they would go. Because at the minute, who on earth knows what's going to work there? But yeah, this kind of tactical pragmatism, when you're thinking about managers, Macca, maybe that reopens this carousel of these managers who've done it before, who know what they're doing. And hey, if you're David Moyes, I mean, you were just somebody who can manage players, right? You can work, he gets the best out of his squad, right? Players play well under David Moyes because they want to play for him. And West Ham, I think they're still going to regret booting him out, because that was a poor decision. They got silverware. They played some very, very solid, if unspectacular football under him. And they're 17th, right? It's been a car crash for them since they let him go. So he's this kind of, classic example of an old school manager who doesn't get treated brilliantly at some clubs, but he knows the basics. And sometimes if teams are going back to basics, that's the kind of manager who knows how these things work.
That's an example of like fans' perception versus like what is your expectation versus what is reality. Like Alex brought that up earlier. Like what is your team? Like Spurs, where are you going to end up? Like if their goal was really 10th, they're doing fine. But realistically, that's not going to happen. Same with a lot of these teams we just discussed.
Well, and like in Palace, if they revert back to the mean for Palace is 13th, 12th. That's the mean, and that's not a disrespect. It's same with Fulham. That is the mean, and so any year you could punch above that is not a bonus. That makes it sound diminishing, but like any year Fulham can finish 7th, 8th, 9th. That's a good year, and you have to be cognizant of that. That Brentford, Glenn, you and I know we're going to witness another relegation at some point. That's how this works. Like we are going to be relegated again at some point, and every year you spend in the Prem is not a bonus, but an exciting year. This is fun to watch this, and not to be fatalistic, but that's how this works. We know how the Premier League works.
What you're both saying is that you're just avoiding thinking about the day that Neil Warnock rocks up at your door and says, "I'm the new manager."
Thankfully, not Roy Hodgson anymore.
Fulham would do that. They'd bring him back. Say, "Come on, Roy."
He's actually a very good coach when he's not coaching Liverpool. But he did say one good thing. I saw an interview with him there with it's the managers, I think, with Mick McCarthy and Tony Pulis about his time at Liverpool. He said his biggest mistake was coaching at Liverpool. He should have just managed because they had enough of coaching. Like Jamie Carragher apparently told him under Benitez, and that's maybe what we're going to see. We're going to see the return of managers rather than head coaches that just go right. Just go out and do it. You know what to do, and maybe that'll free up. Get rid of what I consider to be boring football of playing 20 passes out the back when you don't need to. If you want to see goals, that's just get rid of your goalkeepers, everybody, and make the war more exciting. So let's quickly run through the games for tomorrow and the weekend. Arsenal, Brentford, Glenn, what are your expectations there for tomorrow?
Do them.
We'll see. I mean, hey, Jamie with a squad probably worth 15 times ours, 20 times ours, showed that they're not an impossible enemy at the minute. And we've talked on this show about, is it Arsenal being excellent or is it other teams being inconsistent? It seems to be a bit of both. It's going to be really hard to score. I'll tell you that. I know Gabriel's still out, but like they are talking of good coaching, rigorous coaching. Arteta can defensively with his team of his defensive coaches. They know how to keep a clean sheet. They know how to just grind out a result. I think it's going to be hard. I expect an Arsenal win. I think we're going in with a good bounce after Burnley as discussed. You just think of the quality that Arsenal have in those areas, like someone like Eze, when he gets in the pockets, like he's, I mean, they couldn't get, as Jimbo says, they struggle past 10-man Chelsea, but it's never as easy as you think to do 10v11. Like it just isn't that easy. I expect probably a straightforward Arsenal win because they're top for a reason. And I think there's a lot to admire about them this season, as hard as that is for some fans to say. Like they're just well-versed. They just know where players are meant to be. They're very well coached and, they're confident. And like, again, you look at that team, the Arsenal team. I mean, like you look at players like, Declan Rice, Saka, like these are some of the best players in the country, let alone the league. Like internationally, these are some of the best players going. So, I'd love to say we'll go there, get a goal on the counter, I think Arsenal are just going to knock in 2 goals, 2-0, and that's that. But that's nothing wrong with that, and that's fine because they're probably going to win the Premier League this year. So, no big deal.
Jamie, after a tough game against Arsenal with 10 men, going away to Leeds is probably as good as you could expect nearly, isn't it? For not a lighter game, but a game where you should be going in to look to win that. What do you think?
We should win that game. I mean, Ellen Road's never been an easy ground for Chelsea, though. And if nothing else, they will be energetics off, not a lot of rest, 10 men. Caicedo's not going to be there, so we're going to have to fill in Reece James or Andrew Santos. I'd like to think we can walk away 2-goal winners, but I don't think it's going to be easy against Leeds. I think we're going to rotate back to the conversation we just had earlier, and it might be a situation where we need to bring on the big guns in the second half to try and secure the win. I am looking forward to seeing Cole Palmer play. I think the plan was to integrate him against Arsenal. When Caicedo got sent off, that kind of ruled that out. But we'll see.
Let us go. Make sure I'm not muted there.
We've got to go to Liverpool Sunderland with Henderson, right? Sorry, not Henderson. That's Xhaka. My bad. I'm mixing them together.
I did the same thing during the week there, but I mean, I wouldn't want to face Sunderland with Henderson. I'm not sure I want to face Brentford with Henderson either. But let's look away to the Saturday and Sunday games. We'll start with you, Alex, so we don't leave you out there. Fulham at home to Crystal Palace. As I said, it looks like Crystal Palace are maybe regressing to the mean right now. The Glasner effect. I mean, I saw him complaining there about the summer transfer dealings that they had, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, maybe if you'd have cashed in on Guehi, you would have had some money to buy 2 or 3 players like you moron. But and we'd have been happy. But how do you see that one going on? I think that's a Sunday game, isn't it? How do you see that one going? Is this a good time to play Crystal Palace, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think with the way both teams are trending, right? Palace reverting a little bit to the mean, and with Europe, I don't think there's a European match in between. There's not in between this week, but coming up, I think it's a decent time to play them. I think for Fulham, from a Fulham perspective, it's a good time to play anybody right now. I think, again, even after shipping 5 goals and losing at home, like no one scores 6 on Fulham. So I feel good about it. I think this is one of the ones I talk about often with this kind of these mid-table clashes. This is how the season goes. Like, these are the ones where the season is made. And if Fulham want to push on from last year, these are the ones you gotta win. So I'm excited for it. I see in the chat there. I did see today Chukwueze coming on loan from Milan. I did see today that they're actively looking at triggering the clause to buy. He's a loan to buy, so they're looking at triggering that. I hope he stays. He's excellent. He's great. Yeah.
That would be a good one to get, because he looked good today.
Yeah, he was great. He's been, every time he's come on, he's been like this almost every time. He's an excellent player. So yeah.
Glenn, Spurs against Brentford. You go to Thomas Frank's new home. Are you gonna walk into his kitchen, use up all his tea bags, leave a mess around his toilet bowl, and then kick his dog on the way out? Or do you think this may be just the impetus he needs to kind of knock a few heads together and get a good positive home result for this season? What do you reckon?
Will be an unusual game where he's going to get a warmer reception from the away fans than he will from the home fans. That's a curious dynamic for sure. This is honestly, if I was, again, we like to look at the games for a neutral, right? I mean, whether I support Brentford or not, with the context and with the pressure Frank's under, this for me is a must watch. Like, this is a game I'd turn on. With the way we're playing some good attacking football. Like, yeah, this is a must watch. I fancy us with this one. I think, hey, Keith Andrews obviously was set piece coach under Thomas Frank. It goes both ways, more so for Frank. He knows our squad inside out. We haven't recruited that many players since he left, I guess, a couple. But yeah, it's going to be a cracking game, Maka. I'm excited for this one. For us, we'll go. I just hope we take the game to them. I hope we put them under pressure. I hope we show the Spurs fans a bit of scintillating attacking football. Whether we win or not, it is what it is. You're going to a beautiful stadium against a team, in theory, as we discussed, that should be the very least above us at the end of the season. They should beat us at home. Clearly, they should beat Fulham at home. That's what they would expect, but they're probably not going to do that because they're having a really poor run at the minute. So let's see. I fancy that. With Arsenal, it's just like kind of just being realistic. I'm not really fancying that tomorrow, and we just don't do well at the Emirates. But, going to Spurs, we usually get a goal or two. We've beaten them away from home in the Premier League 2 seasons ago. That was a cracking game. We got a win at the end. That was brilliant. I fancy us, and I think, I know they got the draw today. Had it been a loss, it might be a different story. But if we did go to the lane and get 3 points, wow, you wouldn't want to be a home fan. You wouldn't want to be in the home dressing room. I mean, that's tough.
Glenn, to your point, just real quick, I think you'll see a similar blueprint to what Fulham tried to do and did against Spurs, is get that early goal. Absolutely. And the crowd turned. And there's a nature of the goals too, right? A deflection, and then Vicario losing his mind. The nature of those. The crowd turned. Fulhamish talked about that on the Fulham podcast. If we can get an early goal, and let the crowd just kind of implode around them, I think you'll see a huge reaction from the team. If Brentford can weather that first few minutes of frenetic, let's go win this in the first 5 minutes energy and settle in, then it could get ugly emotionally in what, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it gets toxic really quickly. I think this is a must-watch game. I think this is going to be fascinating for the neutral because, again, if we nick a goal, as you said, Alex, first 10 minutes, there's no patience. They're at a snapping point from basically as soon as the referee starts the game, and certainly your goalkeeper, clearing it to someone like Harry Wilson doesn't help. With the touchlines next to him. But
Thomas Frank is sick of seeing Harry Wilson. If he never sees Harry Wilson again in his life,
don't remind me, Alex. I actually, when I saw it was him who scored, part of me just cringed. I mean, what a player.
It has to be said, though, it always gets ugly when Richarlison is on the field, and that's not because of how he plays. Let me see this now. Bournemouth against Chelsea, Jamie. Again, another team where not the wheels aren't falling off, but the brakes are certainly a bit sticky. Is this a good time to play Bournemouth at home? Because they can be tricky customers in their own ground.
Going to Bournemouth again, never easy, but I think they've lost 4 out of 5. Semenyo was on fire to begin the season. He's cooled off a little bit, so I'd like to think we could make relatively easy work of them, but in true Chelsea fashion, I imagine it would be complicated, but would want to see 3 points out of this one. We actually should. A lot of the teams at the top for the next, in theory, on paper, for the next 6-7 weeks, Liverpool included, there's a runway of potentially like 7 in a row, like stringing some wins together. And with it being this tight at the top, it's going to be really decisive to see where the league ends up come January 1st. I think it's going to be exciting.
I mean, probably at that point we will see who the real contenders are.
And with no Salah, you've got no excuse, right?
That's probably where it's going to start coming together for Liverpool.
So instead of Mo Salah, he's no Salah.
Let's have one more look at those fixtures, and we'll have some Tonali picks there. Do it right, Maka. Do it right. There we go. Glenn, have a look at those list of fixtures. Do you see any Tonali picks there? Anybody standing out for you? And I'm not taking Brentford as a Tonali pick because Spurs are dreadful.
No, that's
Liverpool.
Liverpool might beat Leeds if we're lucky.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a really tough one. I wouldn't.
Sunderland City, does that look like one to anybody?
Yeah, that's where I was leaning. That feels like the kind of low-hanging fruit because it's Sunderland away at Man City. But again, they're not that far away in the it would count for sure. But would it be a crazy surprise? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, the way Man City defended today and against Leeds, you do think a team as well coached as Sunderland, who are just flying, have a solid chance of getting something positive. So I'll take the low-hanging fruit and grab that. But I think it's really, to pick a classic Tonali's pick, I think it's really tricky this week.
Alex, what do you look at there? Do you see anything that stands out for you?
I think in the midweek, I think Wolves get something from Forest. I think Forest traveling. Forest have won once on the road against Liverpool, weirdly enough. But no, I think Wolves can scrap at least a point on Forest. But for this go round, nothing is striking me as crazy. I think City will rebound and take care of business at home against Sunderland. I'm curious about that.
7-6.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think Bournemouth. If I had to pick one, it would be tricky for Chelsea. Again, it's a weird place. It's 10,000-12,000 folks down there in the stadium. It's windy and rainy and weird, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's a tighter than you think game and Bournemouth at least nick a point there.
Yeah, Jamie, anything stand out for you there?
I would love to say, I really want to say Villa, but I don't think they're going to.
That's what I thought, Jamie.
Match for Arsenal. If you'll allow it, I think Forest getting something at Everton.
I would have said that one because that's almost an old school 1990s manager.
Yeah, but if that's too close, then I'm looking down at West Ham, Brighton. I think they are where they are more because teams like Spurs, Liverpool, and United have been shit rather than them being really good. But they're in the European places. I could see West Ham drawing and slowly pegging them back.
Yeah.
I like them.
Well,
my thinking is that, maybe Emery will have a special plan for Arsenal, where he kind of sometimes drags out from the old tactical leather notebooks a plan for a specific team that he hates because
Definitely
he had a
hates
bad
Arsenal.
would
time there.
love that.
That should be a good game. That's a
Yeah.
cracking game to watch.
Yeah.
It's a shame it's so early for us. It's so ungodly early.
And
4:30
then
Thanks.
and anything for Man United Wolves.
I looked at it, Mac. I did look at it. It's just.
It's
Wolves
hard to
just give us
tell that one, isn't it?
nothing. It's Wolves have given us nothing to believe in.
Nothing at all.
Would be the funniest outcome of the week.
That would be the best. Save the best
the
for
most
last.
comedic outcome of the week is.
I'd love that.
Oh my god.
I'd love. It would be so Amarim. It would be so Amarim. But just
Yeah, it
Wolves
would
are
be.
just diabolical. Okay, we can maybe Strand Larson 1-0. We can hope that would be really funny.
Let's have a look at the table there. Arsenal, City, Chelsea. I mean, that's what we kind of maybe would have guessed at the start of the season with Liverpool in there somewhere.
Yep.
But Sunderland up there is, Brighton are doing their usual early season. Their early season jump to the top before they collapse. But Everton, solidly mid-table there. That's a great job by David Moyes.
Villa surprised me actually. They creeped up on me. I think I was paying attention to them taking about 5 games to score a goal.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks ago looked at the table and I was like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. They're doing quite well, but Spurs. I mean, that's a big game now. Spurs Brentford. If you look at that on the table, isn't it?
Could be above them with a good result.
Could be above them.
That's exactly the
trouble.
mid-table derby we all drew up 15 years ago. It's Spurs Brentford. That's it. We all was coming.
Now for all the congratulations of winning the Carabao Cup and all that, Newcastle are still struggling, almost Liverpool style there. Fulham, not far enough away from the relegation spots to not to be comfortable, but at least not to have to look back over the shoulders, and close enough to Everton. A couple of results, and then you're in the European place.
That's what I said at the beginning. Is the mid-table battles really shaping up? I think Fulham are the bottom of the table will eventually settle itself out, and it'll be up to these mid-table clubs to see who wants to fight for 15-5. That's going to be the fight this year.
And then before we start exiting and getting to our Betty boys, Forest, West Ham, Leeds United, Burnley, Wolves. That's probably the 5 from where the 3 will come, isn't it? At this stage,
it's hard. I said early on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I was like, Wolves have got Premier League. I know they've struggled.
I mean, 2 points is awful, isn't it?
I again, similar, Jamie. I agree with you 100% on the Villa have just crept up to 4th. Again, they couldn't hit a barn door, but. Similarly, before the show 2 weeks ago, I was like, I was looking at the bottom of the table and I could not fathom how Wolves had 2 points in mid-November. We come to the first week of December. They are still on 2 points. I just cannot fathom why Rob Edwards would take that job when he was doing well at Middlesbrough. Like, I know there's connections and stuff. I just cannot fathom why you would take what appears to be an impossible job. Like, they're cut adrift. Is that 9 points? That's 9 points in December. And it was 9 points in November. Like, that is insane.
And the goal difference is 21. Look at
those
that.
5 teams are at risk of kind of drifting. So you're right, Mac.
It's becoming a mini league because Alex, I mean, you guys are 5 points off 5th.
Yeah.
Yes,
and shouldn't be that low. And really shouldn't. I mean, to get hard done by Chelsea, a couple to United, Fulham should be a little bit higher up than they are. So yeah,
I mean, from my perspective, I think Forest have way too much quality to go down. Way too much. And now they've got a manager who, at the very least, gets the basics right. He's the manager that gets the best out of Murillo and Milenkovic at the back, just like he would. I think they're clear. I think they're fine. It's the bottom 4. Pick your 3 from that, because I think those 4, they've played, all 4 of them to some extent have played shocking football. I mean, Leeds and Burnley, I feel a little hard done by. They've put in some performances and got nothing out of them. But Wolves and West Ham have put in so many no hope performances. It's just brutal.
And I think Mac, you pointed wheels falling off some teams. I think that's the hard part. If you're outside of that bottom 4 or 5, for you to drop down into that relegation scrap, it would require the wheels falling off of your team and magically coming onto another team.
Yeah.
Right? Do we think Burnley and Wolves are gonna magically figure this out and rise up to mid-table? Maybe Leeds.
It worked in the cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Leeds and West Ham might get their stuff together a little bit, so that last relegation spot. But the other 2 it's pretty dire.
So before we wrap it up, because I don't know when I'll see you guys again, let's do a fantastic suggestion. It was a good idea. It was my idea. I'm not crediting Jamie with it whatsoever at all in the private chat. Predict your top 4 for Christmas Day, let's say. Because there's enough movement in there at least for 3rd and 4th place, isn't it, for it to not be what it is now? I'll put the table back up so you can have a look and see what it is.
I can start.
In order, 1, 2, 3, 4, or just the 4?
I think Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool.
Alex, what do you think?
I like Arsenal, Chelsea, City. You know what? I'll keep it the same as it is now and flip the Chelsea and City. I don't think Brighton are going to rise up. I don't think Sunderland are going to rise up, and I don't know the Liverpool. I don't know. I'm going to keep it the same 4 it is, but the slip with 2 and 3.
Glenn, what do you think?
I think Arsenal, Chelsea, City. I think Man United, and I think Man United because they have the nicest run of fixtures, right? West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle at home, and Newcastle can't travel. Wolves at home, Leeds United, Burnley, with no European football. If you can't get a tune out of that expensive squad, I guess Bumo going to AFCON's not great for them, but Cunha's coming back after a little knock again. If United can't go above Brighton and Sunderland with those fixtures and that squad, like there's, it's just set up for them because the table is so tight. And I'm not saying I believe in them as a great team. I'm not convinced on Amorim and the squad, but they have got enough quality in there that if they put a run together, they can get a tune out of Xerxes. If Bruno keeps playing his incredible performances, like that run of fixtures is a run of fixtures to get you into form. And you can't ask for a better set of 6 than that.
Have you seen the guy he's not cutting his hair until they win 5 in a row, though?
This is his time, Alex. This is for Christmas. He'll be cutting it for New Year.
The fates have decreed they will never win 5 in a row again.
Has anyone won 5 in a row?
It's so ambitious.
So far this season.
I don't know why he should have said
not.
He should have said 5 undefeated.
That 5, not even. I think Arsenal might have done it once, one stretch this season, but Chelsea haven't. Liverpool haven't.
No, City haven't.
Yeah,
ambitious.
Let me check there. I'm not going to pull up on the screen, but I know who scored has a.
Arsenal might be
thing.
Yeah.
4?
We need your rankings, Macca.
It might be close.
Progress 5 in a row. Arsenal, yeah.
Okay.
They've done 5 for sure. But what we're basically saying is if Manchester United can't get through that run of games, Neil Warnock rocks up at Old Trafford. Says, I'm here. I'm managing
exactly.
So just one last comment there. Arteta using the squad the wrong way at the wrong time. He did not know. I mean, I don't know whether that's acting sometimes with Arteta. I think genuinely he just doesn't know what's going on half the time. So first of all, gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging around a little bit longer than we had planned. It's always good to get some fantastic football conversation from really good minds on the game of football. And me. And then, good luck with your teams that aren't affecting Liverpool this weekend. If they are affecting Liverpool, then I hope you lose by 12 goals. And for everybody else, if you want to know when this is on, so you're not coming in 20 minutes into the show and asking whether Glenn has an opinion on Thomas Frank. Not that we're objecting, Josh. But you just caught us at literally the time after he finished talking about it. Then here's what you got to do. You got to follow us on YouTube. You got to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X formerly known as Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Instagram, and the US Postal Service. We will be back next week, probably with a more handsome host. Certainly, anybody with hair is doing a better job than I am. But Jay, it's good to see you again. Alex, it's great to see you again. I missed the conversations again. It's always a good time to talk about the man who has more hair than anybody deserves, and it's all sticking up like a kid in play, otherwise known as Keith Andrews. And so we will see everybody next week, and enjoy the games tomorrow. enjoy the games the weekend. It's coming thick and fast. It's that time of year, but we're not complaining because it's the best sport in the world, and we all love it. Peace out, everybody. Here's some funky music to set you off to bed, boys. Go have your Ovaltine and don't have cheese before you go to bed. It's a bad idea. Peace out, everybody. Here we go.